Hello, this is Anne, and today I'll be talking about problem B from the 2016 NACLO Open Round. So this problem is called dog breeds, and the first page gives an overview of what a dog is. So the acronym DAWG stands for a directed acyclic word graph, and it describes a diagram that stores a set of words in a graph in the sense of a web of paths. That is directed. Each path can only be traveled in one direction. In a cyclic, there is no possibility of traveling in a circle. So when storing a set of words, say hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, there is often some redundancy, and three of these words end in gen, and two of them end in rogen. So the DAWG below stores all three of these words without storing the redundant parts multiple times. So here you can see there's the nitrogen, there's the hydrogen, and then there's the oxygen. So this DAWG can recognize all three words in that each word constitutes a valid path from the start symbol to the end symbol, and no other sequence of letters forms such a path. However, it's not correct to just merge any redundant letters like this, because inappropriately merged letters will lead to incorrect words being recognized. So in this DAWG, you have nitrogen, hydrogen, oxygen, but you also have nitrooxygen and hydrooxygen, which are not intended words. So the first question for this is, on the next page, there are three DAWGs that recognize a list of words in a category, the way that the DAWGs above recognizes a three-word list of chemical elements. And each DAWG recognizes a different category of words. But these DAWGs are poorly constructed, and each one recognizes several incorrect letter sequences as well. And then it gives the shape of the DAWG without the letter labels and the incorrect letter sequences. And then we have to deduce what words the DAWG was supposed to recognize and write these intended words in the answer sheet. So for each part of this question, the number of intended words is the same as the number of spaces that you are given in the answer sheet. So for part A, you are given 4 spaces, and in part B, you are given 5 spaces, and in part C, you are given 6 spaces. So part A, the unintended words are poodhound, Blomeranian, and bloodle. So from this, I can see that there are probably going to be dog breeds, and some of the most likely dog breeds that they are bloodhound, poodle, and Pomeranian. And since there's 4 spaces, we are missing 1 word, and we can figure that out as we fill in this DAWG. So there's this 8-letter spot at the end, and I'm guessing that that's going to be the Moranian for the ending of Pomeranian. Because that doesn't overlap with any of the other possible dog breeds. And the PO probably overlaps with the PO of the poodle. So we can see that there is this path, the PO Pomeranian, that makes the word Pomeranian. And then there's another path that leads to Moranian. There's the blank blank O Moranian. And we get the unintended word of Blomeranian, so that's most likely going to be the BL of the Blomeranian. And then the ending of this is going to be the OD for blood and also for poodle, and that goes to a 5-letter space, which is going to be the hound. So you get bloodhound. And then you have the path POOD, and then it has a 2-letter space for the LE of poodle. Then we have a 3-letter blank, and it's a dog breed that starts with a B and ends in a LE and 6 letters long. So my first dog is going to be beagle. And that is probably going to be the 4th dog breed. Okay, so part B, the unintended words are huckberry, rawberry, blackberry, and strasberry. So this is going to be a category for berries. And the 5-letter space at the end is going to be the berry, as all of these end in B-E-R-R-Y. Now, I see that the strasberry is going to be the word strawberry mixed with raspberry. So we have strawberry. We have raspberry. We have blackberry. And we have huckleberry. Now, these are just the ones that I deduced from the unintended words. But like the one before, we found 4 of the intended ones, and we were missing one more. So we have to fill out this dog to find that last one. So some of the paths include the first 6-letter plus the berry path, and then there is a 4-letter berry path, and I'll highlight the paths. Then we have a 5-letter path and a 7-letter path. Down below we have a 3-letter, a 6-letter, and another 5-letter path. So I'll write that down at the top. There's 6, there's 4, there's 7, there's 5, there's 3, there's 6, and there's 5. So the longest one is the 7-letter one, and we are given the unintended word of blackberry. So the blackle is going to be the 7-letter part, and we can fill that part in. So it's B. Okay. And another, so we have the huckleberry, and we have the LE for the ending of that, which means that the one at the top is going to be the HU, so you get the huckleberry as the green path. And then at the bottom, we have going to be the strawberry and the raspberry. So there's this one empty space that's probably going to be for the W, as there's the green path of the rawberry, and then we have the blue path for strawberry, and we have the blue path for the raspberry and the yellow for the strawberry. So we get strasberry from this too. So we just have this 2-letter space at the very top that starts with a BL and then ends in berry. So this is most likely going to be blueberry. And that's the missing word. And then part C. So the unintended words are panda, gahak, Iranada, can, Rwanda. So this is going to be country names. And some of the ones I've found from looking at this is probably going to be Panama, Ghana, Iran, Canada, and Rwanda. And the last one is going to be Iraq. So we already have the 6 letters, but we should, we have the 6 words, but we should fill out this DAWG just to make sure. So a couple of the paths we have this yellow path that is 4 letters long. We have a 3-letter path. A 4-letter path. A 6-letter path. Basically, there's a lot of paths, which is why there's the many more at the end. And I don't think that it will be that useful to go through all of them, as that will be a lot of time that when you're actually taking the NACLO competition, you probably won't have time for. But we see that there are 1 or 2 letters at the start, and then they all converge into 1 letter that is repeated among all of these countries. And that's probably going to be the A, because that's like a reoccurring vowel in all 6 of these countries. So we have the A here. And then we have 5 blanks at the beginning. So that the starts are probably going to be GH for Ghana, RW for Rwanda, and then the IR overlaps for Iran and Iraq. And then we also have a C and a P that are probably going to stay on their own because that they both converge into the A. So, like, I would first start with IR at the top because that has 4 letters that go into there's this path of 4 letters, and then there's this path of 4 letters for Iran and Iraq. And since N is repeated in some of the other ones, that would probably go on the bottom, and Q would go on the top, as that's the only Q in any of these countries. And then we have 2 blanks, and it doesn't really matter like which one is going to be the C and which one's going to be the P, because they both go to the A, and then like the paths after that are determining what the word is. So we can just put C at the top and then P bottom. And we also have RW and GH. And then so the GH then goes to a Q for the gap, and then we have it goes to one blank space, and that's probably going to be the actual country name, so Ghana. And then we have panda, so that is going to be the PA, and then it's going to go down or like stay straight for the ending of DA, which means that the top one is going to be the actual one for Panama. And then we can go through some of these to see if we covered all of the unintended words and the intended words. So we have Iraq and Iran here. So that those are two of the intended ones. We have Canada and Rwanda and Panama, and finally Ghana. So all of the intended ones are covered. Then for the unintended ones, we use Panda to fill this in. So that's here. We have DAWG, we have Iran, we have Can, we have Rwanda. So we covered all of the intended and unintended words for this DAWG. And then for the last part 2, for each of the DAWGs above, what would be the fewest number of letter squares needed to recognize every intended word with only the intended words? So for example, to recognize hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen at the top, we will need at least the 14 squares here. And then any fewer than the 14 squares, we will get nitro, oxygen, and oxydrogen. And we should not include the star or end spaces in the counts. So there's a lot of overlap in these 3 parts, and we can start off with the first one. So I think the main problem is that the middle parts, they overlap, and then if you have the endings and the middles, like the endings and the starts not being completely separate, then that can cause some issues. So I think that we have the P for the poodle and Pomeranian, PO, and then we have the B for the beagle and bloodhound. So I think we shouldn't like overlap the OOD for the bloodhound or the poodle, because that can lead to words like poodhound and poodle. So instead, we should just keep them separate and have B go to eagle, and bloodhound. Then for the PO, we have that go to Pomeranian, and here I think that will be fine for the beagle LE and the poodle's LE to overlap, as they're not going into any other ones, so it should be fine for that. So here we have bloodhound, we have beagle, we have poodle, and we have Pomeranian, but we don't have anything like poodhound, Pomeranian, or bloodo. So I think this is probably going to be the solution, and this has 27 spaces. So for part A, the squares needed are 27. And part B, we have the berries. So berry is obviously fine to overlap because like that's at the end of all of these. And I think that the BL is fine with the blackberry and the blueberry. Because they split up with the ACK and the UE, and then they go to berry, so that's probably going to be fine. And then I think strawberry and raspberry should just be left without anything overlapping. And then we have the huckleberry on top. And actually, I'm going to move it down between, because I think that we can have that overlap with the E for the blueberry. So we have blackberry, we have blueberry, we have huckleberry, we have strawberry, and we have raspberry, but we don't have any overlap with words like huckberry or rawberry. And in this dog, we have 26 spaces. So B would be 26. Then lastly, we have the countries. So I think that it's fine for Iran and Iraq to overlap. So but I feel like getting rid of the A that's like universal to all of them would be better, because that like eliminates the possibility of like Iranada and can. So we have Ghana and Canada, Panama, and Rwanda. And these 4 all end in A, so I think that would be fine if they overlap. Because after the A, there's just the end, so that won't cause any issues with unintended words. And I think that the Canada and the Rwanda, the D can overlap, because then that goes to the A, so then there's no more unintended words. And we manage to remove the D. Which causes redundancy. So for this, we have (24) spaces. So part C, the minimum is 24. And we're done with this problem because it's only 2 parts. And this is the end of the walkthrough for problem B of the 2016 NACLO open. Bye!